Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Bamidbar, the first parasha of Sefer Bamidbar. We are beginning the journey of the march through the desert, the formation of a people, the faltering of a people, and the rebuilding of a nation as they prepare to enter Eretz Yisrael. This 40-year journey presents many different aspects in the formation of a people and how our relationship with God has developed. It presents many challenges and many lessons for us to learn as individuals and as a people. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai has a peculiar comment about the days to come when Mashiach is expected. He says, how many years are encompassed within the principle of the days of Mashiach? And he answers, the days of Mashiach are no more than 40 years. And his proof to that, or the pasuk in which he brings to solidify this position is, 40 shana akut bedor, va'omar am to'ei levavhem, vehem lo yad'u derachai, asher nishbati be'api im yivu'un el menuchati. This peculiar sentence that we state every Friday night as we welcome in Shabbat seems to be out of place within the context of the beginning of the pleasantry of Shabbat. Why would we mention a sentence that seems to have such harshness in it? For 40 years, God says, I fought, I squabbled with a nation, with a generation that did not understand my ways. They were lost in their hearts. And I swore in my fury that they will not come to my resting place, to my land. Indeed, we know that this generation that left Egypt, in its entirety was wiped out after the terrible sin of the spies that came back from the land of Israel, only to report horrible things about the land and discourage the nation, making the nation want to turn around and go back to Egypt. Is this the image that we want to bring in Shabbat with? What is the underlying message of this pasuk that we say with such a beautiful melody every Friday night? And in fact, how does this imply to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that this is a hint to the secret of the days of Mashiach? A little pamphlet that was written many years ago by the late Rav Kahana, long before he was assassinated. A pamphlet that was written during one of his, from what I recall, many stays in jail, is titled Arba'im Shana. In this pamphlet, he highlights that the pattern of 40 years is something that repeats itself time and time again throughout Jewish history. And in fact, if you do a careful analysis, you will find many, many, many references to the principle of 40 running as a thread throughout our culture, custom, religion, and history. This pattern of 40 years, as Rav Kahana viewed it, was a period of time in which we were given a chance, at which, at the end of the 40 years, if the chance is not used, time is up and calamity occurs. I've spent some time carefully analyzing this principle and reviewing all the many different references of 40 in our material, in our legacies, in the references that the Torah and Chazal make. I've come to a conclusion that Rav Kahana perhaps is correct in some instances, but perhaps 40 years indicates to us something far more profound. I am mentioning this not arbitrarily. In 2 more days we are going to celebrate the 41st birthday of Yerushalayim. Birthday? Yes, the rebirth of Yerushalayim, the reunification of Yerushalayim, the return of the holy city into Jewish hands. 40 years ago, we had an unbelievable moment when the famous words echo in our ears for all eternity, Har Habayit Be'adeinu, Har Habayit Be'adeinu. What a moment of great excitement. Interesting, however, to reflect on this. On that Shavuot morning, just a few days after Yom Yerushalayim, there were over 250,000 Jews that came to the Kotel. What a massive display of faith, of excitement, of rejuvenation. Think about it for a moment. How many times since then, for the last 40 years, were we able to bring so many people to the boundaries of Yerushalayim? Oh yes, unfortunately, every Friday of the Ramadan, there are many more people that come to Har Habayit. But how many Jews have come to the doorstep of Beit HaMikdash How often do we really show that powerful longing and commitment towards Yerushalayim? 40 years have gone by. And on one hand, we have lost so much of our desire, so much of our longing to really appreciate the holiness of this city. On the other hand, anyone that walks through the streets of Yerushalayim cannot help but be amazed by the awesome construction, by the development, by the wonderful, wonderful growth of this city. In fact, there are more yeshivot and more Talmidim learning in the yeshivot in Yerushalayim now than ever in all of Jewish history. Perhaps we have to take a moment and reflect at what these 40 years really mean. I believe that the pattern of 40 years shows us that every 40 years, another window of opportunity opens up. A moment to step back and reflect. What did we do with the 40 years that we were given? Did we truly become closer to Yerushalayim? Do we better appreciate the sanctity of this city and what it needs to do to unify our people? Perhaps another window of opportunity opens up now. To stop, pause, and reflect, because another 40 years are beginning, and we have lots to do. There is much work to do in order to make Yerushalayim the center in the heart of every Jew. Rav Kook has a very simple and beautiful saying that crystallizes the idea. On the sentence that relates to the mourning of the month of Av, we have the famous statement of Chazal, Kol hamit'abel al Yerushalayim bechurbanah, zoche veroeh besimchata. He who sees Jerusalem in its destruction, who mourns for Jerusalem in its destruction, will merit to see in its happiness. Rav Kook asks, why use the term happiness as a parallel to destruction? The sentence should have read, he who mourns over the destruction of Jerusalem merits to see in its rebuilding. He explains it as follows. You could go into a museum without any appreciation or understanding of art. See a Picasso hanging on the wall. And what do you see? Personally, it looks to me like a child's drawing, something that my child in kindergarten drew. I kind of feel bad that I started throwing these things out. I should have saved them. They could have been worth a lot of money someday. But if you truly understand art, if you could appreciate art in your heart, then you are at awe. You walk through a museum enjoying every single one of the paintings. So too, one that truly mourns over the destruction of Jerusalem, one that feels in his heart the pain and anguish of the destruction and understands what it means to our people, that kind of a person will indeed merit to see in its happiness. Seeing Jerusalem developed, seeing wonderful construction, malls and shopping centers and tall buildings are all very nice. We have a beautiful new harp now to enter into Yerushalayim. But does that truly connect us to the spirituality of Yerushalayim? Have we been able to instill Yerushalayim into the hearts of the Jews that live in this country? Does every Jew in the diaspora stand up every time it is time to pray to God and feel in his heart that he needs to turn towards Yerushalayim? After all we do is say Mizrach Vant. Oh, we have to daven to Mizrach. Well, we don't have to daven to Mizrach. We have to daven to Yerushalayim. If you happen to be in that side of the world in which Yerushalayim is on your east, then you daven towards east. Otherwise, you daven to Yerushalayim, because you need to feel Yerushalayim in your heart. Indeed, if we felt Yerushalayim in our heart, if we longed for Yerushalayim, then seeing Yerushalayim in its glory today will really mean that we see Yerushalayim in its happiness, and would be dedicating ourselves to using this new window of opportunity that is opening to instill Yerushalayim in the heart of every Jew. We're starting another journey through a desert. The journey through the desert is something that we do throughout our lifetime. It is now our job to turn this desert into a beautiful, flourishing garden. Shabbat Shalom and Yom Yerushalayim Sameach to us all.